Okay, students. So now we will try to understand the relationship between kinetic energy and the velocity of an object. So to do that activity, I have a trolley here. You're familiar with the trolleys that we use for activities, and I have an object, somewhat heavy object. So what I will do is I will roll the object with different velocity, and here as you can see I have placed the trolley so that this part of the trolley comes in line with the 0 mark. So when I roll this object, this iron metal ball from here, when it comes and knocks the trolley, you will obviously know that the trolley will get pushed. It will move, and it will move to a certain distance and it will stop there. So there you can see if we change the velocity of the object, how this movement of the trolley changes. So to do that, you will need to observe how long the trolley moves when I push it with the object. So initially I will roll the object slowly. I will roll it slowly. So here you can see it has come up to this point. Now if we consider this, it's the 26 centimeter mark. This is again, students, we are not going to do calculations, but for you all to get an understanding. So again, I will place the trolley here and I will move this faster. So here you can see the trolley moved to a longer distance. So if we really look at the distance, it's about 46.5 centimeters. So from that observation, students, you all can understand when I roll this object slowly, that is the velocity of the object is less, the kinetic energy of the object is less, and that kinetic energy, a part of that kinetic energy is transferred through the trolley. So when the object has less kinetic energy, less energy is transferred to the trolley, and that is why the trolley moved a short distance. When I roll the object with a higher velocity, then the kinetic energy of the object is higher and part of that energy is given to the trolley. Trolley moves to a longer distance. So from this observation, I'm sure you all can understand that when the velocity increases, the kinetic energy of an object increases. Okay, students. So now we are going to do this activity to understand that the potential energy increases with the increase in vertical height. So to do the activity, I have a tray with clay there. You can see it's about 3 centimeters in height, and I have an object. This is a very fairly heavy object and a metal ball. So then I have the ruler. I have connected it to a stand so that it is easy for us to measure the height from which I am going to drop the object. Now, according to your activity, students, we are supposed to start at a height of 0.5 meters, that is 50 centimeters. But since I am using a fairly heavy object and I only have a small area with the clay, I will start from a shorter height. Anyway, we are supposed to change the height. So I'll start with 15 centimeters height. So initially, I will take the ball to the point where it is 15 centimeters in height. So somewhere in the middle of the ball, I'll hold it near the 15 centimeter mark and I will drop it from there. So we can see what the impression is. So here you can see the impression. That is the impression made when we drop the ball from 15 centimeters height. Then I will move it to 30 centimeter height, and here we will make the second impression. There you can see. The two impressions here itself, you all can see a difference. This impression is somewhat smaller and the second one is more deeper. Then what I will do is I will raise it to a height of about 45 centimeters somewhere here. Here, students, we are not exactly measuring the height. It's just that we need to increase the height from the surface and we need to observe how the impression is. So around 45 centimeter height. I will drop it from there. So there you can see the impression. So now, can you all see the observation clearly, students? Here you can easily see the impressions. This is when the height was only 15 centimeters. This is when the height was 30 centimeters. This is the height at from about 45 centimeter above the ground. So can you all see the difference in the impression? If you want, you can even measure the depth of the impression, but here you can easily observe it. You can see the difference very clearly. So then from this observation, students, what can you all understand? Now when we raise the ball above the height, it gains energy. That is the potential energy. It's due to the gravity, so it's known as the gravitational potential energy. And when we drop the ball, the potential energy gets converted to kinetic energy, so the ball comes down with a higher force. So when the ball comes down, it comes down with a greater energy. Because we raised it to a greater height, it comes down with a greater energy. So initially from 15 centimeters, it's able to make a slight impression because the energy is somewhat less. When you increase the height to 30 centimeters, energy increases, so it generates a greater impression there. And when it is at a higher level, 45 centimeters, the energy gained by the ball is even more greater. So when it comes down with even more higher energy. So that is why it makes an impression that is even more deep. So from this observation, you can see the difference in depth of the impressions, and from this observation you all can understand that when we increase the height, vertical height, this is the vertical height of an object, the potential energy of that object increases. Okay students, so now we are going to try and understand how the mass affects the potential energy of an object. So earlier we saw that when the vertical height increases, the potential energy increases. So now to change the mass, I have 3 bottles. Now here you can see I have filled quarter of the bottle with sand. Here the half of the bottle is filled with sand and this bottle is completely filled with sand. So obviously you all can understand this has the lowest mass and this has the highest mass. So to understand this relationship between the mass and the potential energy, we need to use the same height. So students, I will drop this bottle from a height of 30 centimeters. I will not be changing the height. From the same height, I will be dropping 3 objects or 3 bottles with different masses. So if we take the first one, about 30 centimeters, if I drop it, that's how you get the impression there. So then I will need to drop the bottle again from 30 centimeter mark. So the bottle that is half filled with sand. That's the second bottle. So then the third bottle, that also from a height of 30 centimeters. So that's the third bottle. So now we got the 3 impressions. Can you all see, students? This is the bottle with bottle filled with sand, half filled with sand and completely filled with sand. You can see the difference, students. Now this has a very deep impression, whereas the first one, the impression is shallow. So from that also, you all can get a good understanding that when the height is kept constant, but the mass of the object increases, the potential energy increases. So from both these activities, now you all can understand when the vertical height increases, the potential energy increases, and when the mass increases also, the potential energy increases.